Jim, you've mentioned repeatedly you've worked at Goldman Sachs. Right. You're proud of your Goldman Sachs
Absolutely.
heritage, and I have a couple of questions about this.
Sure, be aware, I did sell some today, but that's because we have a rule in ActionAlertsPlus.com. We don't want to have one position be more than 5% of the portfolio. Because of the big ramp that it had, it's up to 6%. So we're just trying to be disciplined. I think some people will interpret it as meaning that I've cooled on Goldman. But without that rule, I think we could really hurt ourselves. I mean, look at the stock went all the way from 230, where we wanted to sell some and couldn't because we kept talking about it, to 160. Can't have that happen again.
Well, this is an interesting philosophical question, though, of cutting off your winners just because they get big. Like, would the Chicago Bulls, should they have stopped playing Michael Jordan because you're scoring too much?
This is peculiar to ActionAlertsPlus.com because we really can't trade. Okay, and so what would happen is that we have a finite amount of money. I mean, theoretically, what would happen is you'd be doing this well, you'd get more money in, it would therefore be a smaller part of your portfolio. That would be the natural progression of the way money management works. We don't have that luxury. We just keep having one stock going higher and higher, and we can't put more money in. So we have to kind of redeploy just to keep it as a diversified, balanced fund. Absolutely, it would be better to have that be 7-8% if I were a hedge fund manager. But as a guy who's trying to run very conservative money, it lacks the conservative tinge that I like.
Well, let me go conspiracy theory on you here. Okay, so Goldman Sachs, I almost think that's still a great hold to be even a much larger than 7 or 8%, just because you have Henry Paulson, Secretary of Treasury. Right. You have, William Dudley at the open market operations. You have the guy at the World Bank, Solek. John Tain at NYSE, NYX. Do they control the world or what?
Well, it's interesting to think, what is that real process? And the process is, and was inculcated from me even at the lowest level when I was an associate, a vice president. When you are working there, you are expected to do public service.
Right.
And the idea is that when you're finished and you should retire early, they never ever. I remember the first year that of the retirements, when people would retire, it was expected that you would retire young and then go do public service. That had been from day one what you thought would happen, either charity or politics. I just don't see that. That is not the culture of other firms. So what happens is, I had lunch with Reuben Jeffrey last week. He's the Undersecretary of State for basically economic development worldwide. And he said, look, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to do something good, from Goldman, that's what you do. And I think it's much more of a sense of that from day one, you're expected to get out of there when you're 40 and go do something good. And that's really what, it's not take over the world. It happens to be that they have people everybody wants to hire.
Well, it's probably not directly thinking, okay, now how are we going to spread the Goldman Sachs web throughout the planet? But it's going to work out that way anyway.
But they recruit you for that. When I was recruited by all the other firms, no one asked me about what I would do. Here they would just presume, listen, you're going to give us 20 years of your life. What are you going to do after?
That's interesting.
I actually asked that.
What did you say 20 years ago?
I said that they would give, when I said, you give me, you can have 20 years of my life, and in return, I want to go be a journalist.
Fascinating. Yeah. Well, look what happened.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks a lot.
Thank
Goldman
you.
Sachs, conspiracy or not? Jim answers.